Hello there. This time I'm doing another speed paint. This one is a fan art, Naruto fan art. Well, it's more of a Naruto fanfiction fan art. The fanfic is called Sasori, and it's by DocPetal16 on fanfiction.net. So here I'm just sketching, as sketching goes, trying to... Actually, this expression is most commonly seen on Minato Namikaze, and I wanted to replicate it on Hashirama, which is who I'm drawing right here. And also I googled an image of Hashirama and Madara as kids to get this outfit of his. I didn't actually look at the manga for it. I don't know why, I guess it's just because Google didn't bring up the manga. And then here we have Sakura, or more likely known as Sasori. If you want the whole story behind that whole incident, it's in the fanfic. But it's basically just a time-traveling Sakura. I'm not quite happy how this hand turned out here, but that's pretty much the only thing that I'm not happy with. Sakura here, she's wearing something quite similar to Madara. And besides that, it's just kind of how Sakura looks. Though she is kind of masquerading as a boy, I think. I'm not quite sure what point of the story this picture is at. And then lastly here we have Madara with his wicked hair and his scowling face. And well, I think here in the sketching process he looks more worried than anything, but I fix that when I'm line arting. And I had quite a bit of trouble getting his torso to be with like the arms crossed but at a 3/4 view. But I'm not quite sure if I pulled that off properly, though it turned out looking fine since he was partly concealed by Sakura, or Sasori. Not quite sure what to call it. And here we start line arting, and I remember when doing this I was having quite terrible back pains. So you might see me lagging a bit in between strokes where I'm just like screaming my throat out because of the pain. But either way, I got the line art done. And I tend to get line arts done. This line art was fairly simple because I was not quite emulating, but in the clothes at least I was like slightly emulating Naruto style. And clothes in Naruto don't have that many folds. I guess they're pretty baggy as well. I don't know why, but I found a love for drawing knots through this picture because I had to draw 3 of them and it turned out pretty good. But yeah, line arting is as tedious as line arting goes, and Hashirama's hakama, that's what the pant things are called, I think. It's quite strange, it looks like a dress, but let's just leave it as a hamaka. I don't even know how you say it. I'm quite proud of that hand. I don't usually draw piece hands without reference, further than my own hand. And though Sakura is masquerading as a boy here, she does have eyelashes. And so it's kind of funny that how she does end up looking kind of like a girl despite her trying her best to look like a boy. I think I did it believable, like I flattened her chest as much as I could, though she still has curves, because she's, a girl. But in my defense, Haku looks very feminine, and he is in fact a boy, despite what most other fanfics think he is. And again with the knots, and the little... I don't even call that string, I need to find that out. Again, I was trying to tweak the hand because I didn't like it, and the other hand ended up being too small. And here I took a break in between drawing, so you see me go back into Photoshop, and here you see me again lagging with the line art because of my back, because apparently the break did absolutely nothing. Especially here, apparently. But yeah, Madara scowling emo mode. I'm tempted to call him Duck-ass, but I'm just gonna end up calling him Maddie, because in the fanfic, Sakura refers him to Maddie and Hashirama as Hashi, and it's just stuck. And here I fixed the eyebrows, make him look more angry and less worried. But as far as line arting goes, I guess that's all I've got to say on it. But really, if you want to read something full of crack and have lots of laughs, you should read this fanfiction, because I adore it, and I'm probably going to reread it as soon as this is all posted. That requires my having to, write descriptions on DeviantART and all that. And there I go to look up for a color reference for Hashi, even though I don't really use it. And I use the lasso tool to select the areas where I want to put the base color, and then I put each new layer underneath the old layer so I can be a lot more careless over areas where I've already painted. Like you saw on the skin where I just kind of went insane in a big like square type thing where the hair was already colored rather than having to outline it again. It's because I'm lazy, but I like this method of doing base colors because it allows my laziness to have some space, and I'm used to it. And also, you know, doing base colors like this is a good opportunity for me to think. And here I brought up an old picture of Sakura that I had saved from, I think, the first or second time I drew Sakura in Photoshop. And so I dropped the colors there because I wanted to be somewhat accurate. And I was going to do that with Maddie and Hashi, but I couldn't find accurate colors of them in the sunlight, only them in the night, or fan art colors, which is them just guessing. But in the end, I didn't end up liking the colors on that Sakura. They ended up too dull, so I just fixed them anyway. So I might have been better off not using them at all. And with every white I use as a base color, I never use exact white. And you can tell that with Hashi, I used a yellowish, creamy white, though it's pretty murky. And that's because I think yellow goes good with the red. And then for Sakura, I used a pinkish sort of white. And that's because I think I didn't want it to be the same white between them, and also just to hint a bit more at Sakura's, she's a girl, which is a fact. And also her yukata, I made kind of like a really, I'm not sure how to explain it, kind of burnt, dark, murky pink type of thing. I'm not sure, but she usually wears red in the series, so I just went to get a kind of grey from the red palette in Photoshop, I guess. And when I was starting Maddie's skin, I was kind of, mixing the paint, quote unquote, to try to get his skin color somewhere in between Hashi's and Sakura's. I was really lazy with my shading here. Like when I first started this painting, I think I intended to fully paint it. Like you can probably see on my last speed paint how I painted it, how I tend to paint things, but it's just so time consuming. And these are 3 characters that you have to take into consideration. And I am a very lazy child, and my back was legitimately killing me by this point. So I just went more of a lazy pen tool, kind of make it a bit blended by, erasing it and then adding some, 0% hardness, 10% opacity color on it. And then here I use my line arting brush just to, random strokes, but I'm still not quite happy with that hakama. Seriously, how do you say that? I read it all the time, but I've never tried pronouncing it, really. And yeah, well, I didn't like the shade tone in the reference picture of Sakura's skin either, so I just picked my own and colored things as they go. I did pick the green out of her eye with just the base green, and then you can't even really see it properly, so it's so small once you zoom out. The pen tool way is really the lazy way for me, and it looks fine as a finished product, but I always feel like I could do better. Though still, this was kind of, a little lazy thing before I get doing the enormous list of drawings that I know I have to do because I didn't have Photoshop for a while. Maddie's hair, I think I know where Sasuke gets it from, but it's weird. It's really weird. Though, unlike Sasuke, I can kind of find, the direction of where the hair goes. I don't know if that makes sense, but, hair flows from a point apart or whatever, and, I can kind of see that in Maddie's. And again, lazy way of shading. We're almost finished here, and I was really eager to finish, so this last one might be a bit more sloppy and just my final touches, and I used purple to tie everything together, and then now we are done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed.